So today's guest is a really good friend of mine and also my own personal LinkedIn coach. So anyone that's seen me on LinkedIn, if you're hearing this on LinkedIn, everything you see from my profile to my content, everything is because of today's guest, Mrs. Michelle Griffin. Michelle, thank you so much for being on today's episode.
Well, I'm super excited to be here. Today's a special day for those who aren't hearing this. It's your birthday. So I
My
feel like
birthday.
I'm invited to your birthday party. I'm keep telling him to celebrate. Like, are you sure you want to do a podcast with me? Why don't you come celebrate? But good things are happening today, and I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, and it's cool. It's kind of long overdue, but everything, guys. And I'm excited to have this episode to everyone that's watching or listening, because if you've seen me kind of all over the place, or if you've kind of seen me in the way that I post, if you've seen my engagement and things like that, it's really as a result of the relationship with me and Michelle. So I know that's something that we're going to touch over. I know that a lot of the listeners, they enjoy the LinkedIn talk too.
Yeah.
So this will be great. So Michelle, why don't we just start off with the typical question? What do you do? But more importantly, why do you do it?
Yeah, well, you probably know exactly why I do it, and I know, but for people like you, you're a prime example. So, I'm a personal brand strategist. I work with B2B, mostly professional services, leaders, executives, consultants like you, helping them put themselves out there. And most specifically, we start on LinkedIn because that's where all our clients are. So, people are having to come to me who have a hard time kind of defining who they are, what they do, their message
Right.
and differentiating themselves. And we can talk about what we did for you and then getting them out there and then getting the content. So I say I help you define, differentiate, develop your personal brand, and then build it out from there. I also dabble in some company brand too, but it's usually tied to a leader who wants to be the forward facing person of their brand. So it works. That's how I work with it. I don't work with companies particularly, but if it's tied to a personal brand. So I do it because we're usually our own avatar. When I left my job a year and a half ago, I realized I was leaving my industry and my job of all these years when all these people knew me, and it's like I almost had to start over. So instead of building other people's brands all those years, I should have been building mine. So I realized my mistake, and I don't want anyone to make that mistake. I invested a lot of time and money in courses and certifications thinking that's what I needed before I started my new, entrepreneurship, solopreneurship. And it really wasn't. It doesn't cost a lot to get out there. You know that, right?
Right.
So, anyway, so I help people build their personal brands and get out there.
No, and that is really good. And this whole episode is just going to be one big plug. But really though, I mean, it can be a challenge if you're starting off on LinkedIn and you don't have a strategy, or if you're starting off on LinkedIn and you might be in a field that might be oversaturated. Like when I started my business, I was doing personal finance coaching. There's myriads of financial coaches, and most people are more familiar with financial advisors than anything else. So you're
Mhm.
kind of just joining this big, huge pool of professionals. So standing out can be really challenging. But how do you usually help someone to kind of stand out, among from the crowd, basically?
Well, that's where the personal brand comes into play. I do it for multiple reasons, but people are going to want to know you. These are all relationship businesses. The 99% of the people I work with are service based. So, especially when it comes to finance and your business, all that, people want to just have someone they like and they trust. Trust is the ultimate goal. So, liking someone's a huge thing. So, I realized exactly what you said, and that's kind of what we did for you. You came to me. First of all, you were on Facebook and you're like, I want to try LinkedIn. And I'm like, yeah, you need to be here. You need to be here. So,
Right.
one of the things, our first sessions, we completely did a huge deep dive. I don't just say, oh, get out there. I mean, when my LinkedIn branding is really just branding when we put you on LinkedIn, and that's just one little tool. But we kind of and we differentiated you right off the bat because I pulled out what you like, what you're good at,
Right.
what needs, there's a market fit, how you can stand out by being different. Okay. 99% of the people out there aren't doing that. And if you would just take the time or realize who is that one person I'm helping and what is the problem. So we define all that. So I remember I actually screenshotted that
Oh boy.
first DM you sent me. You're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Because we didn't even touch on LinkedIn the first time. We went really deep into all the brand stuff. And I think you walked away that day feeling like, hey, I think I feel a little bit, I have a new avenue to go after, right? Something
Absolutely.
that's different. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was huge, and that is a really great part. I'm glad you brought that up because, yeah, I mean, I was balancing both of them. I was balancing Facebook and LinkedIn. I was putting more emphasis towards Facebook, when really, ideally, my market really was on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And when I started to focus, I was on LinkedIn for probably like 8 or 9 months before me and you started to even work together.
That's right.
Um, and then when I came onto it, I didn't have that clarity. And I remember, like you mentioned, that first session that we had, those first two, I think, was really focused on, okay, what do you actually want to do?
Hmm.
Who does your business actually help? So I know that's a big part. Having clarity really contributes to a brand. But there was a few other things too. Now, not trying to give away the store either, but really just giving away at least the general themes of our discussions. I think that'll help out for the most part. So I know initially we started off talking about clarity. Once I
Yes.
got clarity, I think we started talking about content.
Yeah. And then, we did LinkedIn is just how it plays, and that's the platform we show up on. But we also worked on your website too, right? And after your first session, we completely changed your avatar.
Yeah.
And by the end of your session, or maybe like week 6, you were doing a whole new thing, because whatever you told me, see, I have this, without sounding like, because if you know me, I'm not one of these people that say, look at me, I do a terrible job of promoting myself, like case in point for
Oh,
5 years. But one of my secret, or my superpowers, is someone can just data dump, verbally dump everything, and they say it and I connect the dots for it. And you said that first session, I could tell, like, this whole side hustle thing, this is your new line, you were doing that along. And so I crafted help you craft that narrative, and you lit up. I mean, because so I can help and see that's important. If you're not doing what you're not wanting to do or supposed to do, you're just doing it because you think you're supposed to, or whatever, it's not going to be sustainable. So I help people see that. That's what you can do with a personal brand, right? That's the whole reason. So you got to be completely excited and good at what you do, and there's got to be someone for it, and an actual problem and a transformation. So we work on all that, and that, look where you are today. I mean, you just blew up on LinkedIn. You were just getting out there. You're the poster person of
I don't know
the
what
right
I'm
ways
doing.
to do it. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
you're
and,
out there.
and I think that's really important too. We got the clarity, and
Hmm.
then I feel like you can tell deep down if who you're serving or what you're doing just really isn't you, because it's harder to put stuff out there. You have to kind of put forth like a lot more effort than usual. It's uncomfortable if you're in a
Hmm.
market, if you're aiming at a market that you don't really resonate 100% with, or you're providing a service you're not really 1,000% with either. And that's how it was with me. That's exactly how things were until I worked with you. And then when we got that clarity, putting out content, which is something I know we'll talk about, but putting out content became a lot easier. Showing up every day, I hear that all the time. I actually hate it, but showing up every day, that phrase, it's easier because you resonate so much better with your market, with what you offer, that it's kind of like seamless. It's effortless putting out stuff and actually aiming to help the marketplace. But
Yeah.
content, I know we talked about in any kind of funnel, content is a big part. So
Hmm.
how do I know if my content is really at par, basically?
Well, it all goes back to, don't go. This is what a lot of people say. Oh, I'm going to try out LinkedIn or any social platform. They just start doing stuff, and there's no strategy. And you came to me. That was one of the first things in our first initial things before we started. You're like, I need a strategy. So I work really hard in giving you the strategies, and then we work on the tactics to get out there. You've got to know that basic stuff we worked on, and then you go out and test it. And we had so many ways that we were doing all the things I told you, but you'll know what resonates, and then you will know what's not. And like you said, if it's a struggle to write it and to talk about it, that's not sustainable. It's not fulfilling you. So I did it too. Like I tried other things in marketing. That's why I shifted back to personal brands. I just prefer working in that thing, and I didn't feel aligned. So I think you just, if you don't feel it, your content won't feel it either, you know? And then if you're not getting your avatar right and the problem and talking about them, I mean, LinkedIn is a huge platform, communities, like I like to say, and it's all about the law of reciprocity. You know, you go in and give, and it comes back to you. And you can't do it one day, come back the next. Clubhouse yesterday, I had this wonderful person. I moderate LinkedIn Mastery on Thursdays. It's the content day. Okay. You have
Oh,
to come one day. And this guy's like, oh, I really want to get out. He was, didn't want to put himself out there. And so I checked on his feed and his posts, and he's been doing it. He's a great guy. And he's wondering why no one engages with his posts. And I said, well, my goodness, I mean, I didn't see him, but he was so friendly and fun on, audio. And I looked, and he was posting like 2 months, 1 month, like he was posting once a month. And that's
oh,
probably why, right?
right.
You can't see traction if you get out once a month.
Yeah, you definitely have to be consistent. I know, and you know what, this really great that you brought that up too, because I know we've had conversations with Sam Swirsky on previous episodes,
Hmm.
with Chris Hughes as well, when, because they really specialize in putting out content and just building a genuine community. And we were talking about consistency at one point too. So I want to get your thought on that, since real quick segue from it. There's some that think that daily is where it's at, post daily. Obviously now someone that's got strategy, they know their market, they know exactly what they're doing, they're putting out value. Posting 7 days consistently works. I've seen other people say 3 days works a week, or 5 days, or every other day. What's your opinion on that? Obviously there's no wrong answer, but what's your
Yeah, it depends on your goal and how much. I mean, um, right now, as you know, I'm doing 7 days a week in 2021 because I started the 365 challenge, and I'm, not going to break that streak. I think I'm on day 211. Um, Now, I'll be honest, some days it's great and some days it's
that?
hard. And you know what it is? It's the weekend. It's like, I just want to not think about it. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm doing too much being my entrepreneurial self. And so I know, in fact, I've earmarked it for tomorrow. I'm like, I've got to pre write my content for the day. I have tons of content and everything, but it's just like a lot. So 7 days is what I'm doing. But if you're just starting out, there is no way somebody's going to say, I'm not going from 0 to 7. Are you nuts? So start at 3, but ideally, I think the sweet spot is 5. Okay. You've
Yeah.
got 5 days. It's weekdays. It's a business platform. You've got the weekends off to recharge, because it's really important to recharge yourself.
Oh
You
yeah.
know. So I think I had a post on that about a couple weeks ago, and it was a very informative post. A lot of feedback on it, and I'm just going to 5. I think after that, and then with the caveat that if you find something fun on the weekend, then you can, but you're not tied to it, right? So, but I'm the kind of person, I'm like all or nothing. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll just go every day for a year. And I honestly, it's the hardest thing, but the best thing I ever did. Within 30 days, I was seeing results, and you know, and I'm not special. Anyone can do this. When you get a strategy and get it right, I mean, you got to do the work, but it's completely worth it. What's the alternative? Sending DMs, doing ads, being salesy. I mean, it's work, but everything else is an entrepreneur and just solopreneurship and all the things. I mean, you can't press the easy button on that. You being at Staples just a while ago, right? So,
Yeah.
and the thing about it is, though, you're building a community, and that's probably one of the most community consistency and community go hand in hand to me. You build that community that you're excited every day to pull up LinkedIn and see. Heck, I see people on LinkedIn throughout the day that I never see my in-person friends probably way as much. Maybe I'll see them once a month, and I see these people, they become your friends,
Yeah.
and you can support on them, lean on them, they support you, and they're going to support your content too.
Oh yeah.
And not as a I feel sorry for them case, but they just, everyone wants to just do that. It's not a pod or anything. It's just we support it. But as I mentioned to you in our training, you got to have your community, but you got to go outside too, and don't stay stuck in the same circles.
Oh yeah.
You
Because
know,
then you can grow complacent that way too. I mean, I feel
yeah.
that completely. I feel like you have a tribe or a community when even if you feel like you put out a crappy post that day, you still got the same maybe 5 or 6 people that just like it anyways, and then that's it. Um, but yeah, I mean that building that community, I know that ties in with once you have that brand, because if your reputation is kind of showing that you are a genuine person, that you are putting out value, you're just going to naturally attract the right
Yes, people
people.
are going to come to you when they know you're there to help them. Where some people say building an audience, I'm a people first marketer, and so I just try to call it community.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I'm not. It's not. It's the same concept, right? Building an audience, but community means to me like a two-way street. An audience, and I'm not picking the terms here, but anyway, I just find LinkedIn a community, and I'm here to build community, offer my support. One of the things I'm not really doing right now, just by choice, is selling. And when I say selling, I'm not like selling. I'm not even mentioning much. The only asks I really make now are just to say, here's my LinkedIn Live event or this event, but I don't think I've done one sales post or mention yet. And which some people might call me crazy, but the DMs are coming already they come in my thing. I don't really have to.
Gotcha.
But I'm just here to give this year.
Yeah. And now let me get your thought on that too, because I mean, marketing and branding are the same thing, right? Or are they separate?
Well, they're a little bit separate. So,
What's the
yeah. So
difference?
I'm branding myself as the giver, empower, and I should be marketing myself more, I know, but if you do it right, it's kind of like the inbound marketing happens for you, and that's what's happening to me. So, it's sustaining me enough where I don't have to. But the thing about it is, I'm working on some new things, and I'm not, and I knew this all along that I was going to be working in these things that are coming up at the latter part of the year, and so I really don't want to push anything out until I got those dialed in. So it all works out. So,
That makes total
but I
sense.
really
Yeah.
think that honestly, the way to do it though is you shouldn't be afraid to make the ask, and that goes back, as you know, with money mindsets, and people get blocks about selling and stuff, especially if you're not into sales and that's your weak point. But there's subtle ways to make an ask, you
Right.
know,
Oh yeah.
without being sales,
Yeah.
you know.
And I want to get your thoughts on that too. I'm always getting your thoughts, but I want to get your thoughts on that specifically because I think a lot of people that might hop on LinkedIn and they understand they might see the potential. They might understand that LinkedIn is a great spot to grow their specific business. So I'll see it kind of where there's some individuals that kind of like every post, it's more like they're just marketing themselves every single post, like they're just selling. I mean, but that's what we're taught when it comes to marketing. I mean, you want to put out the right ad, right headline, then the value to the client, and then the call to action. But that doesn't work on every single post.
No, goodness, no. No, LinkedIn is like anti-selling. I mean, the way you do it, the people who succeed on LinkedIn are the ones that come talk about, give valuable insights
Right.
of their own, especially, the stories and with the business twist. So they're basically coming and just educating or entertaining in a businessy way, being inspirational, being a support. And then people come to know you, you're growing that audience, that community, and then they feel like this is the trust. Remember we talked about trust, the very first sentence. They start trusting you as this person. But we all get hit in the DMs with salespeople, and you're right, they're taught that way. Most sales companies, I'm not in sales, but they have quotas, so they have to go, or the sales navigator messages, oh my goodness, those those are bad too.
Yeah.
So,
A
but
lot.
yeah, you have to play the long game here. But it is going to pay off so much fast, that long game. But then it's like at a certain point, it compounded and it's just like, boom, look what all this. And if you're doing it right, like you said, it's not a chore. I mean, I
So
like it.
yeah, I mean, and to tie kind of that point that you just made, because you talked about, tomorrow, one of your goals is to kind of like batch your content. Even
Yes.
though I know that's something we were always going back and forth on. It's something I just can't do. But what I do notice is that although I don't lay out, okay, this is the exact post I'm going to put out on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, what I do notice though is that I'll have a note section or multiple notes, and I'm just like, anything that comes to mind, I just jot it down. Bam, I want to talk about this. Or another post, let me throw this. Or I just read this. This sounds really great. Let me talk about it. Throw it. So even though it's like you're not really batching exactly what you want to say, you're batching just tons of ideas. And I feel like that comes with that consistency too. And it comes with the fact that you know your market and you
Yes.
do what you love.
Exactly. You know your market. You got to know your market, the problem you solve, and what they need. And then so you can dial your content in that with themes and stuff. But you're right. I don't have it outlined like today. I already even have it scheduled in a scheduler. I have a ginormous notes thing, but it's too long now. So I put some on Trello, and
Yeah.
my VAs put my past content. We have a whole board on my past content categorized because ever since day one, I've cut and pasted every LinkedIn post and put it monthly, categorized by date in a Google Doc. But that's kind of long. So then we put in Trello. But what I want to do is start putting the post ideas in like a framework, like not just a
Uh,
long document is too hard, but categorizing it. But yeah, you're right. And I'll tell you the interesting thing that you're saying all these ideas. I think I told you this. So before I got consistent on LinkedIn, I was a commenting person. Like I would comment all the time. Probably not like 50, but I was daily like getting there. And I was getting traction on comments, but it wasn't until I started posting daily that it took off.
yeah.
But when I would look at all these people posting daily or whatever, I'd always think, what do they talk about? Like, I mean, like and not what do they talk about? I just feel like how do they have enough information daily to talk
Just
about,
keep
right?
going. Yep.
And the minute you start posting, it's like you're gifted with
It
ideas.
just goes.
Yeah, that's your gift for getting out there. Yeah, that's
Yep.
your gift for getting out there. The ideas, because you'll start talking to someone in a conversation. Tell me this happened, and you're like, oh, that could be a post, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think I mean, like we talked about, I mean, I've been posting since September or whatever of last year, probably on average 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes all week or whatever, but never really counted. I mean, since me and you worked together since June 1st, I mean, it's been crap. Today actually makes it like the 60th day of
Oh
posting
my goodness!
every
Congratulations. Yeah, we
every
just made
single
it to
day
the
too.
week, so that was timely.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been every day for 60 days. And I mean, if you kind of start at square one and you say, hey, Austin, okay, you're going to be posting something every single day for 60 to 90 to, 365 days, I would have looked at you like you were crazy because it's like, what, like you said, what can I talk about every single day? But it does come kind of with that consistency of me. If you are posting every day or if you're posting 3 to 5 times, it comes a lot naturally because now you're looking for things,
Hmm.
looking
And
for
it has to dial in, I'm a big, that strategy we get in your
yeah,
themes, you stay in that frame, that lane, but then you're gifted with ideas, not only that, but people's comments. The
right,
comments will ask something. So comments,
right,
you'll see it in your comments, other people's comments. So you just find stuff that fits in your little parameters and you just change it up. And not only that, we haven't talked about formatting, changing up the formats. I was a big you and I got dialed
oh
into
yeah, that's a whole nother
format.
science.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
And then, the repurposing. So formatting, repurposing. But I'm a big believer. Now, not everyone believes in this. And I think you need to find what content format works best for you. And maybe one or two. But I'm a big believer, one of the reasons you're using those analytics is because tracking data, measure what matters.
right,
We and what works and what doesn't. And you learned a lot about yourself that way. And the headlines, we worked on headlines
definitely.
especially.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
all
you,
has an impact, big time.
yeah, yeah, that made a huge difference. So we get really probably like half our sessions were just about content, right? And then another half were about strategy and engaging and all that connecting. So it's an even
Yeah,
split. So with the first part we worked on branding and your messaging and your differentiation, unique selling proposition, and all that. So yeah, because I think you told me were you posting 4 times a day back in the day?
Oh, yeah, because
That's a
that
lot.
was what I was doing on Facebook. I had to get a whole coach for Facebook before I ended up realizing that maybe Facebook's not the best match. But yeah, I was doing that. I was doing 3 posts a day, every single day. And I had that. I mean, I had a system for that. Like I knew what I was going to post in the morning. It was going to be something informational. At afternoon, it was going to be a question to who's ever watching, just asking. And then I think at the evening, I was doing like a daily video series. So I put out a video. So 3 posts a day, and no traction. So I was like, okay, so that was pointless. But I've seen more, I can't even, I mean, 10 times, 20, maybe 30 times more traction
Yeah.
just by doing just one genuine, value centric post a
Hmm.
day. And I've seen a whole lot more traction. I've seen a lot more results, obviously, because you kind of helped me figure that out too. That, after kind of certain milestones, you'll start to see things start to happen.
Yeah, I remember those
Oh.
early days and you how excited you were. And now I feel like you're completely a different person than you were first, you know?
Yeah.
And let's not, I know you're probably not going to want to talk about yourself, but I am because it's your birthday.
Oh
But
boy.
not only did you do super well on LinkedIn, but you got invited like 10 podcasts in the first month. Is that what you told me?
So
Yeah.
I, so because of, I mean, when we started, I mean, that's why I'm trying to stress to listeners and watchers how kind of critical this relationship was for my whole business.
Hmm.
Because once we start figuring out that deep down, okay, your niche is side hustles, you want to work with other business owners and help them get to that next level.
Hmm.
Then we also had that whole, I was going through that transition period of being a personal finance coach and also being a small business consultant. And then we made that transition, still navigated that. But because of that clarity, when we talked together, because of that clarity, that
Hmm.
helped me kind of open up a whole lot more opportunities, which led to me starting that podcast
Hmm.
focused on, people like side hustlers or solopreneurs.
Hmm.
So, I mean, 8 weeks, it's probably 8 weeks, since we started. And yeah, I think this is actually the 13th or 14th episode on the podcast. And I just started it, I think, halfway through June.
Well,
So
that's
6 weeks.
really good. But you, what I meant was that weren't you on guests on others too, or
I
was
was
that?
on I was on a couple.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, which has been cool.
that's gonna continue to just go crazy because the more you put yourself out there, people just start seeing you, and you now
Oh yeah.
we've carved you out, defined your niche and the problem. So you're now known for the thing. So being a personal brand and developing it, it's because you want to be known for one thing, so you can get a lot of traction.
Oh
And
yeah.
so you're starting to get, you'll be, we worked on a whole I think we worked on a whole media PR thing, little mini version of that to
Yep.
get you out there off of LinkedIn. Because yeah, we start on LinkedIn, but that's just a starting point,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's so many things. And I actually owe someone in my, someone commented in my article last week because I did, one of the things I asked you to start doing, because I did too, is start writing an article on the weekends because and I mean, you didn't have to do it on Saturday, but I think you did too. And someone said, "Why is having a niche so important? It seems counterintuitive."
Ah,
And I said, "I'm going to write an article about that because it is on my list. It may not be tomorrow, but I am because I have it in my head. But I mean, until you define, you first of all changed your niche completely because it wasn't aligned. It didn't line up for who you are and what you want to do, right? It was a great niche to help, but those
oh
people
yeah.
be able to pay you, or you really serve them the way. So the best, I'm going to turn it around to you
Oh boy.
because I'm starting to, I'll have to use you as a quote. Why is a niche, how did a niche help define you in the success you're having?
Because if you're talking to, what's that phrase? If you talk to everyone or you try to help everyone,
Exactly.
you're helping no one. I
Yeah.
hate that, but it's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
If you're being very general and if you don't know exactly who you're talking to, you won't know how to aim your posts. And even if you have like really great content, I won't really know, you're talking to me unless you kind of point out, okay, I'm talking to entrepreneurs or I'm talking to solopreneurs. So having a niche helps with your branding, it helps with your marketing. You attract people a lot faster, a
Hmm.
lot faster. Um, there was an example. Oh man, there was an example I just heard about. Ah, if I wanted to buy, I think it was like something like if I wanted to buy like a whole computer setup, would I go to Target or would I go to Best Buy? And most
Mm-hmm.
people would say Best Buy, and it's like, why would I go to Best Buy? And then they'd rank, they'd name it off because Best Buy has all like the technology, they've got all the computers. If you want the top stuff, you go there. That's interesting because if Best Buy said that they were like a Target, Target's the whole broad market.
Yep.
But you're going to something more niche because you trust that brand and you trust kind of like the reliability because of the name behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, having a niche, knowing exactly who you're talking to, it makes life easier for sure.
No, it does. And then you're targeting too. You can go look out and find these people because
Right.
until you do, it's just like
You're
looking
just everywhere.
endlessly. You
Right.
can't find those people. And that's a great example because a couple of times you had written some headlines and I said, "Oh, call out your people in them." And I think you did that. And now sometimes, let me give a thing. Well, sometimes unless you're like Gary Vee or some huge names, when you're first coming out on the platform, I say talk to the people exactly, call them out, name them, let them see themselves in your content, because when you're just coming out, it's like going to a crowded cocktail party or networking room. You want to break in there, but there's a lot of people. How do you do it? Well, you get introduced exactly who you are, and so you can have a conversation.
Right.
And I think you did that. Now sometimes you can have content that is more broad and you're going to get more reach, but then if you want to go really focused and talk to your niche avatar, then you should really speak to them. Otherwise, they won't know you're helping them and you're here to help them. So you can mix it up like that. But if you're just starting to come out on LinkedIn, getting content rather, talk to those people. And I know you had a lot of headlines that did that early on. And I
I had
think
to.
that started crafting the other motive behind that, because we wanted to expedite. People are busy, the feed is crowded and fast, so we wanted to fast track people associating you with what you do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I don't think you did it every day, but you dropped it somewhat, and it happened fast for you.
Yeah, because I think you made the point too to make it just organic. If I start every post, if you're a side hustler, do
Yeah,
this. It's like
yeah,
it's
no,
robotic.
we'll tone out.
Um, but it's after, I mean, like you said, I mean, after a period of time, once people get familiar with you and then also you have your profile all outfitted, which is something that we went through, but you've got your profile that kind of reflects what you're doing and who you're specifically talking to. After a certain amount of time, when someone sees your name, they kind of already know what you do. They
Yeah,
see your brand colors, they see your name, they're like, okay, Michelle, yep, I see that big old bright yellow. She's talking about brand. If I see blue, I see Austin. Okay, he's talking about side hustles. So then it's like then you can kind of like play with it. You
yeah,
can be more general. Like I know, for example, my post yesterday and my post today. So because I like it short and sweet. If everyone knows, I just put need more referrals. Here's 4 ways to do it, or here's 10 steps on how to gain more referrals. That's it. But people already know. So even if you kind of deviate, you really aren't deviating because people know, even if he's not talking about side hustles, or even if she's not talking about personal branding,
yeah.
know that
You're under
she's
that
got some
umbrella. Yeah.
right. She's got something good to offer anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Just giving that value. And I one thing I'm bad about, because I help people with it and I'm bad about it myself, is like today I didn't put my post out till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean,
Yeah.
what is wrong with me? I had to do this. I had something on deadline that I had to get out, and the what day got away from me. And so, especially on Friday, you and I tested a lot, and I encourage you to get it out early. And that's another reason I want to batch so I can just get it out. And
Put it out
it's
there.
like exercising first in the day. If I don't exercise, the day gets away from me.
Yep. Yep.
But because I can't break my streak, I have a cell phone on my iPhone alarm at 3 o'clock. LinkedIn posting deadline. And luckily, I've always posted by 3. I've never. I meet the deadline, but definitely test things like posting early in the morning, and checking out, rotating that content. I have to say, I didn't train you in this. You are a natural designer. Your
Oh.
sliders are awesome. You're so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, you did a phenomenal job. And I know you started experimenting with stories too, right? LinkedIn
Like
stories.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, that it's all encapsulated under testing. I
Hmm.
mean, there's so many different facets, and a lot of it. That's what you were encouraging to do, at least towards the end. Once we had everything kind of down packed and we were comfortable, and now it's just like, okay, you've got a foundation. Now let's expand. Let's try different things. So, we talked about, you encouraged me to use the stories. Just put yourself there, or put something there. Try
Hmm.
the sliders, try articles, try this, try that. Just keep testing stuff. Test the dates, test the
Hmm.
times, the content. That's what, yeah, like you said, I mean, it comes underneath that umbrella of just try everything, see what
Test it
works.
what they like and what you like. Some things you may not like, so that's again not going to be sustainable. But and again, I want to stress this isn't all about views. The views are going to help us expand our network,
Right.
but I don't want you obsessing about them. If you're just with the intent of just being very helpful,
Right.
and return the favor to people, and then commenting heavily. And I think you do a really good job of that because you're all over the place in a good way.
Yeah. But I mean, but to your point too, I mean, you've got those metrics like the views, the engagements, and I know when it comes to social media, a lot of people are kind of under that influence that if I have a million followers, if I have a lot of likes, if I have a lot of this or a lot of that on my post, then I'm successful. But it does, yeah, it really doesn't make the difference. It's the content, and I learned that from you too. Every post, if you're putting out some kind of information, it should literally be helping your client or potential client, solve a problem that day, which
Exactly.
is that's a big deal. And then I know, they call them the vanity metrics. I know my personal metric is the views. I
Hmm.
like to track the views, not to kind of boost my ego, but if I know that I put out a really good piece of content, really helpful and informational, I want that to be as far as possible. So if I
Hmm.
see that there's a lot of views, if I see 10,000 views, or you helped me to do that one that did 40,000, I think, and that was in our like fourth or fifth week. If I know I've got that many views, then I know that there's got to be a big portion of those thousands I helped out. And that's the whole point. But if you're not
Yeah.
getting any views, no one's going to see it. So
Yeah, no, I think
trade
that's
off.
everyone. I know some people that's what they go by, and I agree. You have a very valid point there too. But I also encourage people to not saying like their posts fail, but there's a lot of people who see your stuff and never reply because they're scared to, there's a lot of people are really scared to comment because they're self judgment or their boss or the employee that they're probably on LinkedIn and not supposed to be at the moment. Of course,
Hey,
most of us are still working from home, but anyway, keep that in mind. And 2 points about that. So, yeah, vanity metrics are great, but some of these people aren't selling or having, what I'm saying? They're entertaining, but you don't know what they do, or no one's like knocking on their door.
right, right.
So, or do you want leads or do you want likes or sales? So anyway, so that you can make a living on a smaller. I mean, I'm not. You always want to keep growing your network, but you don't have to
Right.
reach X amount of followers to make X amount of money. I mean, if you can still, as long as you're talking to that audience, they know exactly who you are, and that's connecting. It sometimes just takes time, but I have landed DMs when people say, "Oh, I follow your content. I follow your content," and I've never. I mean, I don't remember everyone, but you don't ever see them. So it's like there's people watching you because what do they say? 3% of people are content creators. The other 97%
You just
lurk or
watch.
learn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just watch.
So LinkedIn came out with some report this week, and there's now 774 million users.
Holy smokes! And only 3% are really the
Yeah, so there's
ones.
still, I mean, yeah, there's more people on the platform, but I mean, it's still a place. Because here's the thing: most people give up. Not most people, but a lot of people
A
come
lot of
into
people
it,
give up. Yeah,
or they're not consistent. You know,
right.
that's why 5 days will get you out there. They're seeing you more and more. So
Oh yeah, yeah. The weekends, like I know a great suggestion that you gave. Weekends, make it personal or something like that. Sometimes I'll still post up, a tip that I think will still be helpful because, like you said, after a few days of kind of doing it, you just keep stockpiling different ideas. So sometimes it's hard to keep them in. But yeah, weekends, personal or just off it, and then 5 days, if anything. But as long as you're consistent, that's a big deal.
Yeah, at least Monday to Friday for sure, and some people say they get really good engagement on the weekend, but don't feel like you have to. I'm
Right.
the only one who's like making myself do 7 days a week. I
You
don't
lock
really
yourself
know. I
in.
met two other people so far that did that last year. And then of course there's 300 something people in the 365 challenge initially who signed up.
Yeah.
Now, not all of them are being consistent, but there's quite a few who are still doing it day in and day out. So
I think
they're seeing tremendous results too.
I did actually join the hashtag, but I did that for a few weeks and I just like there might have been a day or two because you're not seeing anything. It's just like whatever. But
Yeah, and I quit doing the hashtag because earlier on I was using a few more because back earlier in this year they're like 3 to 9's a number. Now it's three, so I'm like that had to go.
yeah.
So, I know it's kind of it is the honor system, but I know in my Shield app will tell you.
Oh yeah. And you can't miss the yellow. We see yellow anywhere. We already know that you posted up, so you can't really miss that.
Exactly. And some days
That's
I'm late, but I'll show up, I promise. Which is
oh,
bad. I shouldn't. I got to be. Someone messaged me the other day, like, "Hey, what time do you post? Because I really want to follow your content."
oh
And
wow.
that's a good question because I let's say the good answer should be by 8 in the morning, but the real answer is not all the time.
Anytime before 3. Yeah, that
Yeah,
could be a challenge too, because it's
yeah,
life happens. So trying to do anything at the same exact time every day can be a little bit
yeah,
of a challenge. But I think what you're doing after you've kind of built up that reputation where everyone it gets to the point where everyone just even if they don't see you, they know that you posted,
yeah.
because you've been there for so long. Then it's like you have some play. Just like when we talked about the niche.
Yes.
Play with be very specific, but then if you veer off topic, it's cool. People
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Don't veer off too much though, right? Because then you start going off on another tangent. But yeah, that's totally fine as long as you stay in the game most of the time. But my thing is why I think the morning is so good because it just gets in the feed more and it's circulating. Because
Right.
if you have a really good post, like today, I have a really good slider. I really just posted like 30 minutes per week on this about
Gotcha.
10 ways to enhance your profile picture. It came on because one of my favorite people from the 365. Michael Scott, hey, if you're listening,
Hey, good man.
always
Good
so nice.
man.
He messaged me this morning with this really sweet note about all that. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even recognize you because he has a new profile
Change this
picture.
picture.
Yes. Yeah, and like early on when he was one of the first people in it, we were laughing how my tagline for him was the un-Michael Scott because he's like the opposite of Michael Scott on The Office. Anyway, so he
Yeah.
looks completely different. I didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
Some other people recently got it, so my post is like summer must be the time to get a new profile picture. So I have some really good tips.
Nice.
Today's slider, but because I'm posting on a Friday afternoon, which is probably like the worst time,
Yeah, it's tough.
it's not going to get a lot of eyeballs, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's I don't mind.
Yeah. Because someone that's interested, they'll check out your profile anyway. So they'll see that stuff. And
Yeah, it's just me. I had something very important this morning I had to do that I couldn't do. And honestly, when I first started posting in January for the first month, I would get up early and get it out the door by 7 a.m. But then it would interfere with if I don't exercise in the morning, that goes away. So I had to pick between
uh,
LinkedIn posts.
got
So
you. That
it
makes sense.
but you find the time that works for you is what is best. And for you, that's in the morning, I know for you.
7:45. That's it. Yeah, and it just works too because once you get out the way, then that's it, and then you
Yeah.
can just focus the
Right.
rest of the day on commenting or whatever the day, whatever it is. But yeah, mornings just works, and we only figured that out. You gave me the suggestion of try it out. Between I think it was like 7 and 10, and just keep testing stuff. And I just found
Yeah. And
I don't know
did you? Did
7:45.
you test out later or did you just stick with 7:45?
I think the latest I probably did a post was maybe 10, and that was on a weekend. But before that, it was just I think between like 7 and 8:30 is what I was testing out. And I don't know how I came to 7:45. I think I just put out a post that did really well at that time, and I said, okay, here I've got my slot.
Yeah,
Just
that's really good. Yeah,
yeah,
what's the irony is I'm consistent about posting, but I'm not consistent about my posting time, and that's I think I'm gonna like for August 1st, it's coming up Sunday or something. I'm gonna make that like my August challenge, right? And just say, let me challenge myself to post every day by 8 a.m. my time or something.
Same time, same day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it really does help, and I know we have audiences all over the world too. So,
Right.
but I think stay in your time zone and then, see what matters. But one of the things on my LinkedIn Live show and my episode number 2 is I interviewed someone from Shield app, and he said they tested that, and pass this along to you, and of course everyone on the show, and most people maybe know this is before you post warm up the feed by posting on other people's stuff.
Right.
He said there was data they tracked and stuff, and it was just in the show. He mentions why, but I found that significant. Some days when I forget and don't do it, and it's hard to say unless you're like a complete data nerd and like
Right.
isolate this A/B test to this. Um, what I'm not going to do. It does help. I equate it just like warming up the feed. If you want the feed to make you happy, or the algorithm rather, um,
Pass it forward.
give some LinkedIn love to other people. So
Oh, and it's not too hard. I think you suggested 10 comments, but that's
yeah.
just nice
So
little
I kind
benchmark.
of do that when I have my morning coffee or something.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, but that's what it is though. If you're not a poster though, or you post 3 days a week, in between you should be commenting even more so.
Right.
And here's the thing, and people say, well, I can't be on LinkedIn all day. I have clients, I have to work, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, just block some time, set your alarm, and then just focus on that time. Come back later.
Right.
I'm not saying no one can realistically do that, right? And you've got to have a job. So, but just commit to it like anything. When you commit to it, you will see the results. It's
Oh yeah.
compounded interest or like
Yeah. You'll build it. You'll build it. Just being strategic and consistent, you'll build a community, whether you like it or not.
oh
We'll
yeah,
see it.
yeah, because
Yeah.
people are very friendly. Most I haven't had any problems really. So, but yeah, so I think that's what I do is getting people out there and starting on LinkedIn, but then branching out after. But it will have tremendous benefits to you personally, right? It just helps that clarity, that confidence,
Right.
find your clients, build your brand, build your reputation, be the known to for something like you. It's just a phenomenal way with 774 million now. Not I don't think like half of them use it, but the opportunity is really big. 60 something million decision makers on B2B are on the platform. So you can't find this anywhere else. And
Nope.
it's a special place. So that's what I do. And I think one of the questions you asked me is, what was the fourth question I was supposed to
Like
answer?
basically, like what advice you give to someone that's kind of up and coming. But I think this whole episode has just been
Yeah.
really like this whole episode's been a lot.
Yes.
People got a
Well,
lot.
I
But
give you an example. I found a family friend. She's in grad school at a party last month, and she was telling me how she's about to graduate and she's going to start looking for a job, and she's in recruiting. And I said, "Oh, you need to be on LinkedIn."
yeah,
So 2 months go by, and I get a DM from her. She set up her profile, and she's graduating in a year, but she's starting in the fall to look. And then so I screenshotted a bunch of people that we probably both know who are really big in recruiting, and like follow them, listen to all their content, because they go really talking about your niche. They talk to their niche, and exactly, you probably know who I'm talking about. But anyway,
yeah, yeah,
so she's going to start doing that, and I'm sure she'll find a job
yeah.
off of LinkedIn by the time she graduates, just
Oh
getting
yeah.
out.
That's
So if
all it
you're
is.
starting out, and for college graduates or not graduates, anyone, just get on LinkedIn. You'll find that job.
There you go. And what we saw real quick, I mean, what we saw this week, there was that one post that was talking about if you could be consistent for 90 to 150 days, you might have on average, most people have their breakthrough through after 150 days. But
Was that Tom's, our friend Tom? Someone's post is that? I can't remember.
yeah, yeah, it had to be because we were talking because I thought that was actually pretty interesting. I mean, I've heard, and anyone that's listened, you guys have heard it too, that 90 days, not, and obviously not a guarantee, but 90 days is probably kind of like that point of consistency where people are interested. But on average, 150 is when most business owners on LinkedIn kind of have their breakthrough. So I guess moral of the story is just be consistent no matter how you do it, whether you do it daily or not. Just stay consistent and you'll see the progress, and just don't give up.
Yeah, and to support that, all some of the bigger names that we follow and her mentoring us, and all their great advice. Every single one of these people, except for like if you're Gary Vee, he was already famous to begin with. But all these people like who just stepped on the platform at certain points said, "I want to do this." They all started at zero or very low, and they all say the story. No one commented on my stuff. No one did it, but here's what they did right. They stayed in the game. They kept going.
Yeah.
Everybody says that story. So the ones who bow out early and can't take it are the ones who don't succeed, the ones who stay in the game. Another example, I'm not going to mention any names, but there was another person in my 365 challenge who started early on. I'm not even going to say if it's a guy or a girl. This person, I don't want to give anyone a name, they had a completely, they weren't getting any engagement. Okay. I just saw a post by this person the other day, and it just had like everything gets like 100 comments, and went from like 1 to 100 just by getting out there. And I've seen this person's brand completely change. It's just, and Michael Scott's an example, that's why I get excited about it. And people think it's work. Like my friends are like, why do you like LinkedIn so much?
Cool, it's cool, especially if you don't have that kind of in the real world. Like, I mean, like you've got friends, obviously, you've got friends,
Yeah.
but if they're not entrepreneurs, or if they're not kind of like business owners, it's hard to connect on that level. Like I know the majority of my friends aren't entrepreneurs. They might have little side things that they might do here and there, but it's not like their full-fledged focus to start their own business and do it. But come on to LinkedIn. I'm friends with a lot of people, and it's cool. You can talk business all day. It's
Yeah.
all good. So
Yeah, it's good people. They don't even, it's like this whole little hidden world if you're not in that. One of my friends was like, well, in that, she goes, oh, I'm going to start looking for another job. I think I'll go on LinkedIn. Like that's what they think. It's just a place to go look for a job. And
right.
it was like that. But there's this whole hidden world here if you just jump in and become, find your people, and not just friends. I mean, you'll find clients, you'll find opportunities, collaborations, launching on this and that. So it's not just clients or jobs, it's so many other things
Yeah, and
just by putting yourself out there.
it's
Yeah.
all worth it. You're building relationships, whether you work with them as a client, you can work with them as a business, venture deals. There's tons of opportunity, like you said. And
Oh, yeah.
now if somebody wants to, let's say someone did just start off, they just started out into LinkedIn, and they really want to just kind of maximize their presence there, and they want to stand out. How can they reach out to you specifically?
Oh, well, thank you. You can please connect with me on LinkedIn.
Oh,
It's Michelle B as in brand Griffin. So you can connect with me or follow me on LinkedIn. I do have daily content. My website is michellebrands.com. I'm also about to redo my website. So that's going to hopefully be out soon. But I also have a link to my blog is my LinkedIn blog. So you could go and see all my content, and I have guides and free templates and things like that you can grab on my website too. And
sweet.
just whole I was looking at all some of my archive stuff in Trello. I'm like, God, I have a lot of LinkedIn. I didn't forgot I even had all this stuff I posted. It's just crazy. So I'm here to just give and help people. I sometimes do it too much and not ever, like I probably could do it. You know what it is? If you can do what you would do for free,
Yeah,
that's when you know you're doing what you're doing right.
yeah, you love
And
it.
that's for me, helping people do what they love, take their expertise and what they're good at and what the world needs,
That's
get
it.
out there. So that's where they can find me. I'd love to connect.
Sweet. Okay. And I'll put everyone that's listening and watching, I'm going to put the information to reach out to Michelle, put that all in the description. And like she said, reach out, because if you are trying to stand out, take it from the guy that's built all the, I mean, the only reason why we have this podcast and YouTube is because of literally all of this. So reach out to Michelle. You won't regret it. And Michelle, thank you so much for coming on today and being today's guest. It's been a pleasure.
Oh
Huge
my
pleasure.
goodness. You and I could talk forever. Thank you so
I
much for having
know.
me, especially on your birthday. A happy birthday to you again.
Thank you.
And anytime. So I appreciate it, and I will see you soon in the feed. Okay. Take care.
Absolutely. And
All
to
right.
everyone that's watching, Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Passion, Pain, and Personal Finance Show. I'll talk to you soon.